Welcome everyone to our first episode of a Speak for a Nation project. This is the first part of the Israeli-Palestinian conflict, specifically the 2014 Gaza war. We invite Tom Sagiv, an Israeli national and EMIS student, talking about the reasons of the war, the undertaking actions by Israeli governments, and the effects upon the population and the relationship between these two sides.
As you know, Operation Protective Age starting on the 8th of July on 2014 took a pretty big toll on Israel and Palestine alike. I would attribute two underlying, long-standing reasons to the conflict and one instantaneous spark. So first of all, the first underlying reason is the huge rocket fire that's been falling on Israel since 2005. In 2005, our Prime Minister, Ariel Sharon, initiated the disengagement plan, and this meant that all Jewish settlers, all Jewish presence in Gaza was evicted forcefully in the name of trying to get peace. In Gaza, they were left businesses, houses, everything to give the Palestinians and try to create peace. And rocket fire has been falling since, because Hamas, a terrorist organization, took control, and a de facto government, they took control, and rocket fire has been falling in Israel ever since. In the Protective Age, you'll see that above 4,500 rockets fell in a space of 2 months. So that's number one reason. Number two reason is the mass tunnel system that exists in Gaza. The IDF intelligence had been collecting that information that Hamas had been building with all the money it's been raising through external funding, through oil-rich Russian-backed Iran, for example. It's been building tunnels. Those same tunnels were also used to smuggle people, terrorists, tunnels that would eventually end up in Israel, in the south of Israel. They would come out and start a shooting. So that's the second underlying reasons. And of course, the instantaneous spark that every conflict needs, and that's the murder of the 3 teenage boys. They were walking home, Eyal, Yifrach, and Naftali, boys aged 16 to 19, on Gush Etzion, an area on the border between the West Bank and Israel. That really created mass outcry in Israel. All public newspapers condemned this, and forms of media really urged action on the spot to try remove this problem, to prevent this from happening again. So of course, Israel took a very big responsibility and a very big role in how the war unraveled. I'll explain a little bit about the chronology of the war. On the 8th of July, the beginning of the war was marked with the Operation Brother's Keeper. This is when information was reached by the IDF that 3 boys were abducted. Searching was conducted in the West Bank to try to find them, and on the 12th, this mission was sadly aborted because the 3 bodies were found in the area. At that point, Israel decided they needed to crack down on Hamas cells in the West Bank and Gaza. Air raids began with 3 main purposes. The first purpose on destroying weapon caches that were being smuggled from and to Israel and Gaza from Israel and Egypt. Second one is destroying the tunnel infrastructure that was existing. And third of all, to destroy terrorist hideouts. And on the 14th of July, the first ceasefire was proposed jointly by Egypt and Israel, and it was rejected by Hamas on the 14th. On the 18th, after that, Israel began the land invasion, Operation Protective Edge, in practice. And then on the 26th, a 12-hour truce was agreed. This was actually fully carried out and lasted 12 hours by both sides, and Israel actually offered to extend it, but this was rejected. And then finally, on the 1st of August, 72-hour truce was agreed by both sides, and again, the actual ceasefire was broken minutes into the ceasefire when suicide bombing went on at the Rafah crossing in the north of Gaza. 2 days later, on the 3rd of August, Israeli forces completely withdrew from the Gaza Strip with their goals accomplished. 32 tunnels being destroyed, the larger part of the Hamas network, and a prominent Hamas leader being charged with the killings of the 3 boys. He was arrested. Then from the 10th to the 19th of August was the longest ceasefire held in the war. This was when long-term talks were held in Cairo, mediated by the Egyptians. A few days later, they came back to the negotiating table in hopes of achieving a more long-term peace solution. And on the 26th, this was actually secured, and a long-term was actually panned out, and this marked the end of the 2014 Gaza war. So the Gaza war did have a big effect on Israel and the Israeli society. First of all, the economic effect, 41 billion shekels in damages during the war. But the more substantial effect, I would say, is the mentality and social change that happened in Israel. I've never seen in my life a country to come so tightly together, united for one cause. Throughout the country, everyone was, left, right-wing, secular, religious. They were all in favor of the war, of trying to maintain Israel's security. And of course, the attitude change. People got really tired, of the terrorism and of the Palestinian militancy. And then finally, the indiscriminate rocket fires, the constant sense of pressure, the constraining danger, that gave us a purpose together as a society to drive on, to push on, and that's what brought people together to be stronger. At the end of the war, Israelis began to harbor and to develop a much stronger resentment towards the Palestinians because of what happened, and the government actually illustrated this by adopting a much tougher stance on terror and the Palestinians. It created a lot of public mistrust between the people, which is often key to the negotiating table between the two sides. For me personally even, it resulted in a lot of constructive dialogue with my Palestinian friends, resulting also in great debate sometimes. But ultimately I know it created a pretty big division between the people, between the schools of thought.
Do you think that this war was necessary and that all means were exhausted before a military approach?
Yeah, I definitely do. If you see the amount of the number of truces that were offered and accepted by Israel compared to those breached and rejected by Hamas, it's a number incomprehensible. And furthermore, Israel doesn't want to send its troops to Gaza. It will incur casualties, but it always makes sure that's the last option, and that just shows you they exhausted all other options before doing so.
Critics point out to the unproportionate number of casualties. How do you explain that?
Well, to the critics often pointing that, I provide the analogy that if two people rob your house, you're not going to call two policemen for proportionality. You're going to call as many policemen as possible to get rid of that imminent threat. This is Israel's case. About the disproportionality, the real disproportionality lies not in the power employed, but the intent. Israel targets legitimate military bases, and Hamas targets everyday civilians.
How do you think that the relationship between these two sides will develop in a period of 25 years?
Well, realistically thinking, 25 years is not so long, and knowing how long this conflict has panned out, I don't think much will change. But I'm an optimist. I'm hopeful that one day Israelis and Palestinians will live together in peace. So we can hope till then.
Thank you very much, Tom, once again. Stay tuned to our channel for the next video with a national Palestinian talking of the same topic. Like our page and share our videos. Peace.